till the scissors hovered an inch from her scalp, the metallic glint catching the fluorescent lights like a predator's eye. The classroom was silent except for the faint snip of the blades opening and closing in rehearsal, each click a countdown to humiliation. Emily Harper knelt on the cold tile, wrists bound so tightly behind her back that the rope had already carved red grooves into her skin. Her long chestnut hair she had grown since kindergarten, hair her late mother used to braid every Sunday morning, spilled over her shoulders like a final shield. The four girls circling her wore identical smirks, the kind that come from knowing no one will stop them. And the boy holding the scissors, Jake Russo, captain of the lacrosse team and self-crowned king of Ridgewood High, let the moment stretch until the air itself seemed to choke. Then, with a grin that never reached his eyes, he sliced. A thick lock tumbled to the floor. The room erupted in cruel laughter. Emily didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stared straight ahead, pupils dilated, as if memorizing every face that would one day regret this moment. 24 hours earlier, no one would have predicted the storm gathering behind those quiet hazel eyes. Emily moved through the hallways like a ghost, headphones in, sketchbook clutched to her chest, answering teachers in murmurs. She ate lunch alone at the corner table, sketching intricate cityscapes no one ever asked to see. The bullies called her Mouse. They tripped her in the corridor, dumped chocolate milk on her backpack, and once swapped her gym clothes for a toddler-sized t-shirt that read, "Daddy's Little Princess." Each time Emily gathered her things, wiped her face, and disappeared before anyone could apologize, even when they wanted to. Teachers noticed but looked away. Her grades were perfect, her record clean. What harm was a little high school hazing? So the torment escalated, slow and methodical, until the day Jake decided a public execution of her dignity would cement his legend. He live-streamed it on his burner account. Hashtag her most gets muzzled. The clip hit 10,000 views before the final bell. Ta-da! That night, Emily sat on her bedroom floor surrounded by the fallen lock of hair. She held it to the lamp, watching the strands shimmer like copper wire. Her phone buzzed. Another notification, another replay. She didn't open it. Instead, she opened a dusty shoebox beneath her bed and lifted out a worn manila folder labeled in her mother's handwriting, "For when you're ready." Inside lay documents she had never understood. Discharge papers, commendation letters, a photograph of a younger woman in desert camo standing beside a Black Hawk helicopter. The woman had Emily's eyes. On the back, scrawled in faded inky, "Sergeant Maya Harper, 160th Saw Night Stalkers. If anyone ever hurts you, remember who you come from." Emily's fingers trembled. She had always thought her mother died in a car crash. The truth was classified until her 18th birthday, still 6 months away. But the folder also contained something else, a flash drive and a single post-it note that read, "Play me when they go too far." She plugged it into her laptop. A video auto started. No password, no encryption. Her mother's face filled the screen, fatigue lines etched deep, but the voice steady as steel. "Sweetheart, if you're watching this, someone finally crossed the line. I flew combat missions most people can't pronounce. I lost friends over Kandahar. I swore I'd never let the world break you the way it tried to break me. So here's the plan. Everything you need is in the safe behind Dad's old army jacket. Combination is your birthday. Use it wisely. And remember, revenge isn't the goal. Justice is." The screen went black. Emily stared at the reflection of her own shorn hair, uneven and jagged, then walked to the closet. The safe was exactly where her mother said. Inside, a satellite phone, a forged press pass, a burner credit card with a $50,000 limit, and a list of names. Senior officers, journalists, even a sitting congressman. At the bottom, in her mother's handwriting, "They owe me. Cash it in." Ta-da! By midnight, Emily had booked a red-eye flight under an alias. She left a note for her father, away on a trucking route, promising to explain soon. At the airport, she cut the rest of her hair herself, a blunt bob that made her look older, harder. No more Mouse. When the plane touched down in D.C., a black Suburban waited curbside. The driver, a woman in a crisp suit, didn't ask questions. She simply handed Emily a lanyard that read, "Deudi Liaison. Harper." The first stop, the Pentagon press corps briefing room. Emily walked in wearing her mother's old dress blues, tailored overnight by a military outfitter who still owed Maya Harper a favor. Cameras flashed, she didn't flinch. Tada back in Ridgewood, morning announcements droned as usual, until every screen in the school hijacked itself. The livestream Jake had bragged about rebooted, but this time the thumbnail wasn't Emily's terrified face, it was Jake's. The video opened on grainy night, vision footage Jake and his crew spray painting slurs on the Veterans Memorial downtown, time-stamped 3 weeks ago. Then another clip. Jake's father, a local councilman, accepting an envelope from a construction lobbyist in a parking garage. Then audio Jake bragging in the locker room about selling prescription pills lifted from his mom's pharmacy. The entire student body watched in stunned silence. Teachers tried to shut it down. The IT guy's credentials had already been revoked remotely. The final slide appeared, a single line in white text on black. Justice is quieter than vengeance. E.H. Utter panic rippled through the lacrosse team. Jake's phone exploded with calls from his father's campaign manager. The 4 girls, Chloe, Madison, Brooke and Lauren, scrambled to delete their socials, but screenshots were already viral. National outlets picked up the story within the hour. Decorated Night Stalker's daughter exposes high school corruption ring. By lunch, federal agents in windbreakers walked the halls, serving warrants. Jake's father resigned before the evening news. The pharmacy chain announced an internal audit, and Emily, she was on every major network, calm and articulate, explaining how her mother's legacy taught her that real power doesn't need volume, it needs precision. Ta-da, but the climax came at 3:17 p.m., the exact minute Jake had cut her hair the day before. The auditorium doors swung open. Emily strode in wearing the same uniform, hair now a sleek, deliberate crop that framed her face like armor. Behind her walked 3 night stalkers in dress blues, medals glinting. The principal, pale and sweating, tried to speak. Emily raised a hand and he sat. She didn't yell. She simply played the final clip. Security footage from the classroom, time-stamped, showing Jake pocketing a wad of cash from Chloe's father minutes before the attack. Extortion to fund senior skip day, the room gasped. Jake's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, the same tile where Emily had knelt, and started to cry. Not the performative tears of a cornered bully, but the raw, choking sobs of a boy realizing his kingdom was built on sand. Emily crouched in front of him, voice low enough that only he could hear. You thought cutting my hair would make me smaller. My mother flew into hell with rotors on fire and brought her crew home. I'm just getting started. Then she stood, turned to the microphone, and addressed the school. This isn't about me. It's about every kid who's ever been told to stay quiet. Your silence has a cost. Today we paid it forward. The night stalkers saluted. The student body erupted, not in laughter, but in applause that shook the rafters. 24 hours after the scissors, Jake and his crew stood in the same classroom, now empty except for 5 chairs. Emily entered last, carrying a pair of barber clippers. She didn't speak. One by one, the bullies sat. Chloe's hands shook as Emily buzzed a strip down the middle of her perfect blonde hair. Madison sobbed as her curls hit the floor. Brooke begged. Emily's hand never wavered. Lauren closed her eyes and took it like penance. Jake went last. When the clippers touched his scalp, he whispered, "I'm sorry." Emily paused, met his eyes in the mirror, and finished the cut. Then she set the clippers down, untied the same rope they had used on her, and bound their wrists. Not tight, just enough to feel the weight. She left them there for exactly 17 minutes, the length of her mother's final combat mission. When the janitor found them, the bullies were crying hair shorn, reputations in ruins. But something had shifted. They weren't laughing anymore. A month later, Ridgewood High unveiled a new mural in the cafeteria, Emily's cityscape sketches, enlarged and vivid, with a plaque that read, "Courage is contagious." Jake transferred schools. His father faced indictment. The 4 girls started an anti-bullying peer program, mandatory community service. And Emily, she enlisted the day she turned 18, shipping out to Fort Campbell with the 160th. Her call sign Mouse, whispered in the ready room with reverence now, because everyone knows what happens when the quiet girl finally speaks. Ta-cha, so here's the question burning in your chest right now. When was the last time you stayed silent while someone else paid the price? Drop your story in the comments. Did you ever stand up, or are you still waiting for your 24 hours? Smash that like button if this hit you in the feels. Share it with the friend who needs to hear they're stronger than they know. And subscribe for more cinematic stories that prove justice doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it just cuts its own hair and dares the world to try again. Until next time, stay loud for the quiet ones.